Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Wozlowski. I'm the host here at Storm Champ, a podcast where we like to talk with everyday people about stories and struggles, and as they've developed resilience in their life through some of the storms life hands our way. So today I'm meeting with a friend, Natali, who will share her story of becoming a triathlete, a runner, and just an overall badass sporty spice. So, Natali, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone.
Hi, I'm Natali. I am a marathoner, like she said, training for my 6th marathon right now. I am a triathlete as well, a 2-time member of Team USA competing in a world championship, which is pretty exciting. And just, all around nerd and very random individual.
Yes, badass. So thanks so much for being willing to meet with me today. I wanted to chat a little bit about your journey. I know one doesn't just wake up and win medals. So let's talk about how you sort of got into the scene. What were you interested in regards to the marathons and kind of becoming a little bit more of a sporty spice in your life?
Well, I always thought that running was punishment. Like, I played group sports growing up, so if you got in trouble, you had to run. So to me, I associated any kind of running with punishment. Yes. So I was like, people run for fun, but why? I don't get it. Until one of my friends signed me up for a 5K, and I was like, 3 miles? Like, that, I can do that. I played sports. Like, I've been athletic. That was a lie. I absolutely could not run 3 miles. I made it like a half mile and was dying. I was like, sweet baby Jesus, why did I do this? And I was like, oh my gosh, I've gotten so out of shape. Like, this is outrageous. So I made a promise to myself that for a full year, I would run a 5K every month. So It gave me something to kind of look forward to. And as I got along, then people were like, hey, let's do a Spartan race. Let's do this mud run. Let's do whatever. And just kind of, I would take it a little bit at a time. And then I accidentally signed up for a half marathon.
How does one accidentally sign up for a half marathon? How does that happen?
I went to the Rock and Roll Half Marathon Expo just to see what vendors were there and walk around and hang out. And I had something on me that said export. And one of the people who worked there, he's like, oh, well, if you work for export, you get or if you, work out there, you get a discount on the race.
Wow.
So I went over to their booth, and this woman from export, it turns out she was their VP of customer engagement, something or other. I just thought she was a lady at the booth. She writes out this code for me. She's like, okay, here you go. Hope you have so much fun. I go back to the original guy. He's asking me, name, address, whatever, putting everything in. Then he prints out a sheet of paper and he goes, okay, you're all set for the half marathon. And I was like, excuse me, what?
Excuse what?
I thought I was doing the 5K. I'm not.
Half marathon, that's 13 miles, yes?
13.1, yep.
Yeah.
Which up until this point, the most I had ever run was 5 miles. And that was once, ever in my entire life.
Wow.
So I kind of had this come to Jesus moment with myself where I was like, all right, well, what's the worst that could happen? I make it 7 miles and have to get picked up by the little, sag wagon and taken back to the finish line. Then I'll know 7 miles is as far as I can go.
Okay.
It's a free race. I might as well just see what happens. So I did. I got up that morning. I put on a Godzilla shirt. So I was like, yeah, it's time to crush these streets.
Yeah.
And went and I did it. And I finished. And I was on cloud 9. I was like, I just ran 13 miles. This is crazy.
What does it feel like at 13 miles for the first time ever?
It was insane, but also kind of sad because I never told anyone that I was doing it. So I get to the finish line.
No cheerleaders?
I'm eating my banana and I was like, well, I guess I'll just go home now.
It's done. I did it.
That's it. I accomplished it and no one was here for it because I was afraid I wouldn't. And so I didn't want anyone to come cheer for me and then me not finish.
Mm-hmm.
So then the very next day I get to work and I'm super hyped. I'm like, guess what, everybody? I did a half marathon yesterday. And as fate would have it, literally as we're eating lunch, we get an email from the marketing department at the company I worked for. And they're like, hey, we're sponsoring the Chicago Triathlon. We have 3 spots available if anyone wants to do it, for free. And I was like, fuck it, yeah, I can do a triathlon. I knew nothing about triathlon. I didn't own a bike.
3, right? There's 3 things.
I had never swam in open water. Literally did not know a single thing about triathlon. But I was like, still on this high of like finishing a half marathon where I was like, I can do anything. So I signed up for the triathlon. I bought a bike. I bought a wetsuit. Like,
just kept it going.
First time swimming in open water, I almost drowned. But, you know, like I made it. I finished the race and I've been hooked ever since. So it just kind of like kept leading up, and then eventually I was like, I'm going to do a marathon, but just once, because I'm going to hate it. So like I'm going to do it once and it'll be one and done.
Just once.
And now I'm training for my 6th marathon.
Wow.
So that kind of is how I sort of like got into everything.
Sounds like you jumped 2 feet forward, a little bit by accident and a whole lot by fate.
Yeah, I'm definitely like a let's just dive in and see what happens and kind of like adjust my sails as things come along. So like one of the things that I always like say to people, I'm like, you know, you can't cross the ocean if you're afraid to lose sight of the shore. Like you just have to kind of go for it and see what happens. And
that's good.
That's kind of just like, I guess that's kind of something that came out of running, was like in my personal life, once I realized that I was capable of more than what I thought that I was, like all of those boundaries and limits I had imposed on myself. So like realizing physically like, hey, I can do way more than I thought. Then I was like, well, now I can do all kinds of stuff. Like, let's just, you know, so it definitely, the more I was able to accomplish in sports, like then it definitely translated to my personal life to like make me a much more confident person.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see where that would happen. When you think back to Natali before your first half marathon and Natali before that open water swim, what would you tell that girl? What would you tell that young woman who maybe was restricted by those boundaries a little bit and felt some of the pressure of having to maybe limit herself? Oh, I can't run 3 miles straight, or I don't know. Like, what would you tell that girl now, knowing that you busted through all of that?
Just like enjoy it. Like take every moment, appreciate it, like learn from it. And like just, you know, don't hold yourself back. At every moment, go for it. So it's something very special about that moment where you can just surpass all expectations you've put on yourself, just surprise the hell out of yourself entirely. And I would have to imagine at the end of that half marathon would be one of those high moments, and definitely after almost every race. So tell me a little bit about the process of prepping for your races now that you kind of know what you're getting into a little bit, and some of the events are going to be different based on what the expectations are, but leading up to an event, do you have like a month out? Do you have a timeline or a regimen that you do to prepare yourself? Or how do you kind of get yourself ready physically but also mentally for the challenge ahead? Yeah, so a lot of it starts like kind of the year before, like in the winter time is sort of like the beginning of preparation, because that's when I'm deciding on like what my year ahead looks like. So, you know, every year I pick a big scary goal. Like something crazy, audacious, like, you know, I'm going to go for it. I might fail, I might not, but like, you know, if I don't keep pushing myself to see what that limit is, I'll never know. So this year, for instance, my big scary goal is a 5K open water swim, which like the longest I've ever swam in open water is 1.2 miles. Okay. So like, why not just double it and add a little more?
Sure.
So that's kind of like the beginning stages of like mentally preparing myself is like, okay, what do I want to accomplish this year? Like, what's my big goal? What are my kind of like smaller races to like kind of lead up to that? So that's where I start. And then from there, I decide kind of on my training plan, and there's an app called Training Peaks. And I'm actually now, like, it's not official yet, but I'm a sponsored athlete. So they're actually like covering my race fees. Like they are like very supportive in my journey as an athlete, which like is awesome because like
super dope.
I'm not a pro. I'm not like, you know, I'm not out there winning races, but I have a good time. So the app actually, like, every day I can check, it'll tell me what my workouts are. So you can just like input your training plan and it'll show everything for you. So like, you know, I decide, okay, I'm going to train for a marathon. So I'll put that in, tell it when my marathon is actually like the date of it. And then it'll fill in all the workouts. Same for like every race. So at least like, I know when I wake up, like, okay, this is, you know, like yesterday I had to do a 2,000 yard swim. Today I had to do a 25-minute run. So like, you know, every day it'll tell you, and it sends you an email too. So it's like a constant, it's like, get your workout done.
Get it.
So like on the physical training part, that's kind of it. And then mentally, it's just really like, you know, constantly reminding myself like, and this is like probably not appropriate, but I'm always like, you're that bitch. Like you can do this. Because even, you know, especially as an athlete that's not like what people would consider, you know, what an athlete looks like. Like I'm well aware that I'm not like, you know, I don't look like a Kenyan. So like when people see me running, they're like, oh, okay. Is this your first race? So even that is kind of like, you know, just like owning my space within sports is like its own little form of activism. But that's like every day I'm like, no, go out there. Like, you know, be that person. Show other people that it's possible. Yeah. So then there's more people who look like you. So that even that is part of kind of my mental preparation for a race is like, yeah, what does this mean for me? But what does it mean for other people that are like, you know, like my nieces who look up to me or other people. So it's a broader sense of like, you know, what really each and every training day leading up to a race really means.
Yeah, no, that's huge. That's definitely something I see following you on social media and kind of getting to walk beside you as you win all of these amazing accomplishments. How many medals are you up to at this point? Do you know?
I've stopped counting, but it's well over 100.
Yeah. So I know for the first little while, just getting the swag is like fantastic, right? Who doesn't like a little shine on their effort? What about that piece of it all is your favorite still? Do you still like getting those medals?
Oh,
Do you
I mean, I'm a
keep
medal
all
whore.
your bibs?
Absolutely. And I still have all my bibs.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like, there's certain things that I really... like certain races, like when I did a race in Spain recently, the last world championship, and they gave us a backpack, and it seems like such a simple thing, but like I love it. Like it's, you know, just like little memories here and there of different things. So yeah, absolutely that swag, like the medals, you know, obviously I have favorites, but like just, you know, it's a reminder of that journey. And even the races where I don't do well, or like, you know, I have had races where I've gotten pulled out because I wasn't able to do it. So even then, like, I still keep everything because it's a reminder of, you know, part of the journey. Because it's not always going to, you know, be rainbows and butterflies and sunshine, especially because, like, as things happen in your personal life, like, that affects your training. Like, I'm starting a new job July 1st because I've just gone through my 3rd layoff in 3 years. Yeah. So it's like, you know, when things get really rough in like my personal life, that's when I kind of like step it up when it comes to sports. Cause like, then like it helps keep pushing you. But you know, it's definitely a balance, and it's tough when like, you know, you don't know what's going to happen with like, hey, I lost my job. I don't know what's going to happen, but at least I have like, you know, the road is free. I can always go get some miles, and that's like my therapy. So absolutely, like every race is a blessing, and like having all the medals and swag, and like I've more t-shirts than I could ever wear in my entire life.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's still like each and every race, like I still get that same joy and excitement, butterflies, and like, yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah, so in those tough times when maybe you don't like end as high or as well as you had hoped, some of the races that you've been pulled out of before, you have to sort of build yourself back up. You got to pat yourself on the back for even joining the race to begin with, right? Can you share a little bit about some of those times, some of the less sunshine and rainbows moments? What do you tell yourself after you've trained for months for this event, right? And you fall short of your expectations, or you feel like maybe you're disappointing your cheerleaders or whatnot. What do you end up telling yourself in those moments?
It's really, really tough. A DNF is never easy. I don't have very many of them. I have like 2 big ones. One was like my first time I tried to do a half Ironman. I even like emailed the race director and I was like, hey, listen, I really want to do this, but I'm really slow. So like, you know, what are the time constraints? Like, you know, do you shut the course off at a certain time? And he was like, no, we want everybody to finish. Like, we'll stay open as long as you need to. Like, you know, this is a great race for first timers. It was a lie. So I had a rough swim. My bike ride was even worse. Like, my feet kept cramping. I legitimately, like, got off my bike. I set it up against some random person's mailbox, and I was sitting in their front yard, like, trying to rub my feet to get the cramps out. Finally get through the bike ride. I get to the run, and I'm like heading out, and one of the race people comes over and they're like, you have, 2 hours and something to finish 13.1 miles. Like, what's your plan? And I'm like, I'm just going to keep going till you tell me I can't. So I did. Like, I went out there, it was one foot in front of the other, and I cried for a ton of it. And I like got to an area where I was like in an open field, and these dogs started running towards me, and I was like, this is it. Like, this is where I die. I'm going to get mauled by dogs. They're going to eat my eyeballs. And like, this is it. But, whatever, it's been real. So like in that moment, like I was just like, yeah, okay.
Oh, wow.
Turns out they just like wanted to lick my salty skin. But so I just kept going. Eventually the race director pulls up next to me in a car, and he's like, I got to call it. I have to take you in. And I kind of just was like, all right, well, I guess that's it. And so, obviously a ton of tears. I was super disappointed. Definitely also felt like I let other people down. Like I had friends who came with me to the race. And so I gave myself the day, like to feel all the feels, like just, like be sad, mad, angry, whatever, all of it. I was like, you have today, like take it all in and start fresh tomorrow, because tomorrow's a new day. You can start training again. And one of the things that I think helped me the most was sharing all those feelings. Because anytime that I haven't had a good race or something, to me, it's really important to share that with people. Like, I don't want people to think that every day that I go out there, it's a great time, or, I'm loving life in every moment, because I'm not. That's not real. So to me, it's important to share, those tough times, because, that's relatable. Like, people understand that, and they're like, yeah, like, that totally sucks. I totally see where you're coming from. And it, kind of like, it made me feel stronger to be able to have those vulnerable moments where I'm just like, yeah, like, I didn't finish it. Like, I'm not unbreakable like I thought I was. Like, I have weak moments. And so that, I think, also is just kind of like letting it all out, putting it out there. Definitely. But like, I totally felt like a failure, and like I had let people down, because so many people are always like, oh, you're so inspiring. Like, I love your story. Like, I love following you. So whenever I do have those tough moments, it does feel like, like such a letdown, until everybody's like, no, but like that makes you human. That's just part of.
They're inspired by that still.
Yeah. And so it's kind of crazy how it works out. But
where do you find your inspiration? So I mean, obviously you take into account some folks who've been watching you and who admire you and your journey and things like this. But where do you get your resolve from? What inspires you to keep going?
Man, that's tough. A lot of it, I guess, is just kind of like knowing like where I come from and like what my family has gone through. Like, I come from a family of immigrants. I'm the first to be born in the U.S. And just kind of all those shared experiences and like things that, things that my parents may not have had access to, or just kind of, like, especially with my grandmothers, like, they're both still alive. My one grandma, she actually came with me to my race in Spain. She's 97. And, like, she has macular degeneration, so she's losing her eyesight. So she's going to get to a point where, like, she has no vision, but she still, like, every day wakes up and, like, gets the most out of life. And to me, that's inspiring. Like, she's not going out doing anything extraordinary, but, like, I think about what my life would be like if I lost my vision, and like, I just don't know how I could cope with that. Yeah. And so the fact that, she's like, well, I'm going to see as much as I can before it's gone. Yeah. Like, travel to Europe for 2 weeks and
see her granddaughter run around.
Yeah. Like, get dragged around by me everywhere I wanted to go. So like, to me, like those little moments, those small moments of like, people taking their situation and making the best out of it, and just like continuing to push forward. Like, that to me is inspiring. There's no like, oh, this athlete, or oh, whatever. I mean, not to say that there aren't great athletes out there, but it's just like seeing people around me in their everyday life, just kind of like pushing through. That to me is like, that's beautiful.
That's awesome. It sounds like you do that for others too. So full circle.
Like, not on purpose. It just kind of happened that way.
You're just that kind of badass girl, What can you say? Wow, no, that's fantastic. Do you think you'll be doing races and things like this for a while? Is it you got bit by the bug?
Absolutely.
You're in it?
Even like there's an athlete on Team USA, and I think he's like 84 or something. Like
Wow.
he's like one of our oldest competitors, and he's still like traveling internationally for a world championship. Like, I mean, granted, by then I'm not going to have a lot of competition, so like that's also a perk of like racing long. It's like to just keep going, but yeah, like I couldn't imagine not having, you know, racing in my life. Like that excitement, it like gives you something to look forward to. You know, it keeps you motivated to be healthy and continue to work out. So it just like has enhanced my life in such a way that I couldn't imagine not having it in my life.
Sure.
So.
What let's talk a little bit about how it enhances your life. Obviously the physical spaces, the mental clarity you spoke a little bit about, you know. What is the biggest takeaway that you get from this whole experience?
I think another big thing that people maybe don't realize, because you think that running is such like a solitary sport, but it's so social. Like I have made life like basically a whole new family from running and triathlon, and all over the place. Like I have friends, you know, I get even like my t-shirt, like I'm part of the Mikkeller Running Club. We have chapters all over the world. When I had my world championship last year in Denmark, I stayed with one of our chapter members from Copenhagen, like at her house.
Wow.
So, you know, like it just, like being part of it opens up a whole new world. Like if you have to be open to it, obviously. Like you can't just like go and expect that like people are going to be like, hey, let's be friends. Right. You kind of have to put yourself out there. But I mean, yeah, like the friends that I've met all over the country, even like within triathlon, there's a group of women that we're all friends. And like my one friend, Claudia, she almost died. She went into congestive heart failure. She still to this day, like she's an Ironman triathlete. So that's like 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, 26.2 mile run. Like that's a lot. Like a lot. And she, you know, like her strength even is inspiring, but it's like, you know, after she went through that, a year later, you know, her first kind of like race back after like her heart whatever rate was at like less than 5%. Like the doctors thought that she was gonna pass. So a year of her like beating death, essentially. A bunch of us, all from different states, all flew to Atlanta to do a race with her to like celebrate a year, you know, of life. And so, you know, those are things that I wouldn't have if not for triathlon or running. And it's just like you meet all these people and everybody has a story. Everybody's gone through something. And so you learn from it. You get strength from that. And it just like really in all aspects enhances your life. Like I just, it's crazy how many doors it opens. Because then even like when it comes to professional stuff, people who you've met through, you know, triathlon or whatever, then they can be like, oh, well, yeah, there's this job opening or there's whatever. So it just really is a whole new network of people that are, you know, like-minded individuals. So.
Sure. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And you thought 5, 10, 15 years ago you would never be one of these runners.
I would literally be in a car and be like, do you see these people, like, running out by the lakefront? Like, but why?
Who's chasing them? What's the
like,
problem?
For what purpose? Like, are you in trouble? What's happening?
Yeah, punishment,
like,
right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, never thought that running, or definitely not triathlon. Like, I didn't even know anyone who was a triathlete. Like, I just fell into it. But, you know, so I hadn't even considered triathlon. Literally was, like, not anywhere close to something I would have maybe considered any time in my life. And then it just kind of, you know,
it happened.
Yeah, running was the gateway drug. And then just kind of like, oh, hey, you want some of this triathlon? You want some, like...
The Ironman, do it. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of funny. But yeah, I definitely, had you have told younger me that older me would turn out to be a marathon runner, no.
Laughed straight in your face.
Yeah, like, absolutely not. Like, you're going to run a marathon, 26 miles for fun? Like, that's not even fun to drive. Why would you want to run?
Right.
Yeah, no. Young me would have absolutely laughed in your face.
Well, so you talked a little bit about the joy of being able to bring your grandmother along on one of your latest trips and things like that. How has your family reacted to your commitment and to your resilience that you've been showing?
It's been kind of a mixed bag. So with my parents, like when I first started, they were super supportive, really excited. And then as things kind of went on, especially as I started to like really push towards like half Ironman and different things, I mean, my dad is kind of indifferent. He's like, sure, okay, whatever. My mom, though, she's like, she's like, why do you always have to like, you're like a junkie for this. Like, you have to keep like pushing yourself. Like, eventually you're going to get to a point where your body can't do it. Like, so I mean, I get it. She's a mom. She's concerned.
Yeah.
And it's tough for her, especially, she'll read stories about, like a marathon runner dying or, even in the last couple weeks, there's been 4 triathletes who have died in the swim portion of a race. And that's just, in the last couple weeks. So, it is a risk, and it's and I tell her this, and I'm sure she hates to hear it. And I'm like, but if it's my time, it's my time. And at least like I'm doing something I enjoy and love, and, like I can't live my life afraid of everything all the time. Like, death is inevitable. So like, I'm not just going to live in a bubble. So it's been tough with her sometimes because she doesn't, get it. Like, to her, working out is to lose weight because she's always had this like pressure from my grandma about like, you need to look a certain way, this very like old school kind of mentality.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't understand that for me, like, I don't give a shit what I look like. Like, to me, a body is just a way to like move through and do things. So, if I lose weight, gain weight, whatever, to me, it's about how I perform as an athlete.
Yeah.
And so that is very difficult for her to understand, because I'm not working out to lose weight. I'm working out because I'm conditioning my body to perform certain tasks. So it's like we have very, very different mindsets and outlooks when it comes to those things. So I think that's kind of like, where we're not necessarily on the same page. But she still, in her own way, does her best to support me. And she did also join me in Spain for my race. But, like, we still kind of have those conversations where she's like, well, like, aren't you worried about your heart? Like, you need to lose weight and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, no, like I go to the doctor every year. I get a physical. Like, I am healthy. Just because my body doesn't look like what you think that it should or whatever. And I'm like, but as long as the doctor says that I'm healthy and like, I'm enjoying myself, like I don't care what the number on the scale says. So with her, there's definitely some, like mother-daughter tension that I guess is to be expected. But aside from that, like, everybody else is just kind of like, I don't get it, but sure, cool. Like,
your thing.
Great, keep going. Because I don't have anyone else in my family who is a runner or triathlete or anything else. So I think for the most part, like, they are just kind of like, all right, high five, like, cool, you did another one of your things, which is why I said that, like, the people I've met have sort of become family, and that, like, they're that support system, because, for the most part, my parents, they live in Michigan, they don't come out to any of my races or anything, so they've missed all those, like, big moments of me accomplishing things, but...
Sure. No, that does make a lot of sense. Remember early in our conversation, you spoke a little bit about being maybe looking different or taking up space in a community that doesn't always resemble or reflect you fully. And so that has to speak volumes to folks who are on the outside looking in, but also to yourself in those quiet moments and trying to reassure yourself that you are where you're meant to be and that you belong here and those sorts of things like that. So for anyone who may be like younger Natali, being like, I'm not a runner, no way could I ever do that. Or somebody who thinks that this, the marathon scene or the triathlete scene is just too extreme or too intense for them. What would you give, I guess, as a word of advice, just to dip their toe in and get started? Just try it, join something with a friend.
I mean, like, start small. Like, maybe you do a 5K or something that you walk with friends. Like, you don't have to run 3 miles. You can absolutely walk it. Maybe you pick something that supports a charity you're really involved in. And that's kind of, how you get into it and just kind of grow from there. Like, you don't have to go, like, balls deep from day one. Like, kind of build your way up to it and kind of figure out what you enjoy. Do you enjoy cycling more? Maybe 100-mile bike ride to support something else. Like, maybe that's your journey. Do you enjoy swimming? Like, there's swim-only events. Maybe that's what you get into. But just kind of, like, dip your toes in, and you'll find and build your own community within that space. Because, yeah, absolutely. Are there, like, super douchebag triathletes who are like, oh, you don't run a blah, 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 or do whatever, you know, you're going to have those people in anything you do in life.
Yeah.
Whether it's sports or anything else, there's always going to be elitists because that's just how humans work. And so, you know, but even in those other spaces, like, you find your tribe. And so that's the same. It's just kind of, you know, like, do a little bit, see how you like it, do a little, and just keep building on it. And throughout that process, like, remember to find your joy, like, stay happy and kind of just, like, you know, remember why you started and keep those same feelings as you go along.
That joy when you look back on the coming up on 6 marathons you're about to finish strong with and all that other stuff. Is there a way to describe that? Is there a way to really summarize what it feels like to look back on all the accomplishments and experiences that you've gained? Or are you just thrilled to do it again next time?
I mean, there's always kind of like a love-hate thing with a marathon, but to me, joy looks different every time. So, like, when I ran my first marathon, I thought it was going to be the only one. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to be absolutely ridiculous. Like, I had my brother meet me at, what mile? Was it maybe around mile 10 when we go through, Detroit was my first marathon. And so I was running through Mexican town and, like, had my brother meet me, and I was double fisting churros, like, as I was running. I'm sure people thought I was crazy. Anytime people offered me beer, I was like, yeah, beer's carbs, cool. But I drank beer on the course. And just kind of, like, to me, that was my joy. It was just, like, getting the most out of it, like, having fun with it, not being too serious, just, like, really enjoying myself. And then sometimes I'll have a really bad race, and finding my joy means finding a dog every mile to pet and, like, taking a break to do that. So it can kind of change and evolve, but it's just, like, something that keeps you going. So you're not just like, oh, here I go again. Because the whole idea is, like, you get to do this. You have a body that's able to get you there. And it's like, enjoy those moments and cherish it, and don't make it a chore. It shouldn't be a job. Like, it should be fun. And, you know, so whatever it takes, if it's petting dogs, if it's, you know, eating random snacks from strangers, whatever it is, you know, find something that's going to, like, make you happy to keep you, you know, in that space.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Good advice. Even if you're not a runner, find your joy.
Like, exactly. Just even in life, like, you know, you got to find those bright spots to help you through it, because it does get tough. And I mean, like, everything around us conditions us to, like, think negatively. And, like, even, like, with bodies, like, body positivity is a phrase because, like, we don't live in that space.
Right.
Like, our, like, what we think is, like, body negativity isn't a phrase because that's just,
how it is.
That is everyday life. And so it's like everything around us is just, like, kind of, you know, telling us, like, whether it's media or whatever, it's like we live in this very negative space. And so, like, self-love, body positivity, all these things are kind of, like, coming out now to, like, get people to think more positively. It's, like, crazy that that has to be a thing. Right. Like, that we can't just live in, hey, I'm going to be happy with myself and, like, be joyous. That's radical. Like, that's insane to me. So that's why I always tell people, like, find your joy and, you know, like,
and run with it.
Exactly.
And run with it. Perfect. I love it. Well, Natali, thanks so much for joining me, sharing some of the insight with you, your journey today. It was great to hear from you as always. Best of luck on your 6th marathon ahead. And we'll have to share Natali's links and some social media with the rest of the Storm Champ community here so you can cheer her along as well. So this is Storm Champ for now. And until next time, y'all, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.